sword at Satan, I keeps it blazing. Cause I can read between the lines, I ain't blind. We unwind what they're really saying, genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics, keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid, you're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So we, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. What a deep honor for Rogue Ways to host a woman who has worked fearlessly to bring forth a vision of birthing that has empowered men and women everywhere to stand and act bravely to birth in freedom and joy. The modern medical system would have us tortured and traumatized from our first moments of life, and Jeanice Barcelo is here to make sure that we know another path is possible. Thank goodness for such work, and thank goodness for you, Jeanice. Welcome to Rogue Ways.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. What a beautiful introduction.
Oh, thank you. You deserve it. Well, before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody that you can support Rogue Ways at subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. If you want to subscribe at the dollar level or higher, it really helps to keep the show going, and I appreciate all those people out there who have shared so far. Thank you very much for sharing value where you find value. I love you guys. You're the best. And Jeanice, I always start with a pointless question of the episode, and tonight I'm sitting here drinking tea, so I was wondering if you have any favorite teas or if you even drink tea.
I drink tea every morning, and I put fresh ginger and fresh turmeric, a few slices, and I have a little herb garden, so I might pick some rosemary or basil or oregano or nutmeg. All of this stuff is growing either on my windowsill or in my backyard, and put it in a little tea ball to make the tea turn into medicine. Also, a half a lemon goes in every morning. So I'm super into starting my day that way with some delicious honey that I get from Hawaii.
Wow.
And I love my tea every morning.
Oh, that's awesome. I was going to ask, but you already got it. That it's not caffeinated tea. It's real tea. It's medicinal tea, and it's from stuff you grew yourself. So that's even better. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't grow the turmeric or the ginger or the lemons, but I do grow the greens. And if I had the opportunity, the proper space to grow turmeric and ginger, I would do that in a heartbeat. And lemons, well, we need a greenhouse to be able to grow citrus where I live. So all in good time. Yeah.
Well, is that so? Because most of us, I'm sure, including me, drink mostly dried herbs if we're having herbal tea at all. So are the fresh herbs even better for you? Is there more of a health benefit, or is that just by chance you just have them so you use them? Or
with every plant and every fruit, naturally, when you pick it, within the first couple of hours, it's going to contain the highest level of energetics that are beneficial to the body. And the older it gets, I think the less potent it is. Of course, people with consciousness can pick it and dry it and do beneficial things that way. But I think the best is to have it for us to actually be using them when it's in season, when it's growing naturally, and fresh.
That makes a lot of sense to me, especially like you described it with the energetics being, straight from the source and into you is probably best. But it's interesting.
If you go to a store and get, I really love mangoes. If I buy a mango, where did that mango come from? I'm in New York, so it's come from Hawaii or some, Caribbean place or, so it's traveled quite a distance and it's many days old by the time it gets to me, and it's lost. And besides which, it's grown for money instead of being grown for ourselves. There's a difference in what we're putting into the food when we grow it ourselves. So, and it contains different not only nutrients but different levels of information coming from the cosmos, coming from the divine mind, when we grow it for ourselves on our own property, that that we love, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, all of this is very important for people to understand, and we've come very far from an awareness of this because we've been disconnected from the land. We've been disconnected from having an ability to have our own space in which to prepare uh, our foods properly and our children properly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. We're definitely disconnected, I think, from most of the things that sort of make us human and make us amazing. And
exactly.
it seems intentional to me. And um,
Yes,
yeah, and I really
yeah.
like that concept. I'm very excited to have be growing vegetables and things again on my property this year because I have another space to do that, and so I started a new garden, and I'm very excited to eat those things because I feel like not only all the things you said, right? There's this energy that goes into it while I'm growing it. There's going to be this energy that goes into it while I'm preparing it and eating it, you know, and this gratitude and this joy and this. But there's also this sense of accomplishment when you can be in any way sort of self-sustainable, you know, because we're so far from it. I think it feels really good.
Yeah. There's a series of books called the Ringing Cedars books that I highly recommend. Ringing Like a Bell and Cedars Like the Trees, ringingcedars.com. And in that book, she suggests that when you're planting a garden on your land, you take the seeds, um, take a few of the seeds and put them under your tongue for 5 minutes
Hmm.
and walk on the earth with your bare feet where you're going to plant them. And in this way, both the earth and the seeds are going to have information about what's going on in your body because your saliva obviously contains information about what's happening in your body. And the toxins that are coming out from your feet will
Yeah.
also give the earth information. And in that sense, the food that's grown in that way will contain specific ingredients to help you in particular bring your body back into balance. So there's much that we have been removed from and come away from that we need to restore, and those books are really beneficial
They
to help us remember where we've come from.
They sound
And
awesome. That
yeah,
and that makes me think of how much damage has been done by removing almost every peoples in the world are removed from their original land, right? But if you would have stayed in your
exactly.
original land, you would have that relationship built up over who knows how many generations that the land
Yes,
sort of knows you and you know the land and you have this sort of give and take
yes, yes.
and
You know,
wow.
I lived in Hawaii for 11 years, and it was up until 1893 that the Hawaiians held their land in the family line for generations and passed it on. So it wasn't an old thing. It was pretty new when the American government came in there with their weapons and their warships and just took over the government in
Right.
Hawaii. So the people still have recollection of the right way,
Yeah, of how it
you
was
know,
done.
yes, how it should be done, which is that we have our own family parcels that we keep in perpetuity and pass them on to our young.
Yeah.
And it's through that connection with the land that we actually also have a connection with the divine mind. This is a united energetic force
Yeah.
that we've been split from. So instead, many people are in concrete buildings that are, you know, in apartments of stone,
Yeah.
completely without any land whatsoever, on top of each other and surrounded by very harmful frequencies and radiation from wireless energies. Um, we are very far removed from our pristine origins and our pristine capacities
Well,
because of our lifestyle. And this has also been by design. So the Ringing Cedars books are the most important books I've ever read, next to my own books. But no, they're even more important than my books because they will help the recollection of where we've come from and provide a path for us to get back to it. That also involves conscious conception, gestation, and birth in that space of love.
That makes a lot of sense. And that
Yeah.
when you're describing that, how we are sort of removed, and this is, if we were still in connection with all of that, we would also be in connection with this divine mind. And I'm just
Yes.
picturing this almost like, unfortunately, like a circuit, because I don't really want to equate it to electronics, but, just imagining that sort of channel being broken because we're removed from it, and now nothing can flow correctly in either
And
direction.
it is a circuit. Our bodies are electrical, our nervous
It's
systems
true.
are electrical. You've seen images of neurons, jumping from synapse to synapse,
Yeah.
yes, from the brain back out to the body. We are electrical beings. And so that circuitry is obviously massively disrupted, not just from separation from the earth, but from the wireless interference, which is introducing frequencies that never belonged on the earth, do not belong on the earth, and are incredibly harmful.
Yeah.
So we're being very seriously interfered with. And I think we're in the end game right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're at the point where it's either the great turnaround or we perish.
It really, I agree with you. Truly, it feels like
Yeah.
that. It feels like so many people are so very disconnected that sometimes it's hard to have hope, But then I talk to people like you, and I have some hope again, and I learn
Yes.
things like this, idea of putting the seeds under your tongue and walking on the earth, and things like that. Like, these ideas are still flowing, and so that does give me hope, and I
Yeah.
kind of try to hold on
Read,
to that.
get the books, get the Ringing Cedars books, because they will reconnect you to the knowing of what you came for. And I think even if many people do die, some of us are going to make it through to the other side of this, and we are going to bring forth uh, a restoration of the divine plan.
Hmm.
And it is magnificently beautiful and based on love and based on kindness and a regeneration of the beauty of the natural world. And we deserve it. We've,
Yes.
we've worked hard to get any level of awareness in the face of all the abuse that we've been confronted with, which is deliberate, purposeful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is deliberate and purposeful, and it seems like it's been going on for thousands of years. And so when you talk about, like, this seems like the end point, I feel like this is the end point of what they've been planning to manipulate us towards. But I always feel like there's something in us that whatever this force is that manipulates and abuses, doesn't understand, and that's this connection that we're talking about, and that it's sort of in its own right, it's unstoppable. And so I think they don't really account for that, and that's another one of my hopes.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. They don't account for it. They have no respect for it. They're aware of it, but they think in their arrogance and their demonic arrogance, they think that they have more power than we do. And we've played into that, pretending that they do,
Yeah.
but they do not. They do not. And it's time for us to step into it and actually make them leave the earth. I don't think these beings can exist here
Yeah.
without our permission.
Yeah, without our
Yeah.
consent. They always are trying to get our consent in some form or another, and it's pretty tricky how they seem to pull it off, but I
It's
absolutely
something
agree.
being it's something I'm being asked to come back to again and again. So I want to come back to it.
Yeah.
And that is, you brought up this idea of people being in the place where they were born, the importance of being in their right place,
Yeah.
And we have a situation where there's been a forced migration of people. So, for example, Africans don't do well in cold climates because their physiology is not intended to live in cold climates, and
Yeah.
their lifespan is shortened significantly when they do so. And yet, we have massive numbers of dark skinned people being shipped into colder climates
Yeah.
that were primarily of the white race. And this is also purposeful. There's an agenda to destroy the white race through miscegenation, through mixed racial breeding, and also through the takeover of white civilization by races that are antagonistic to whites. But all of us suffer, you see,
Yeah.
when we're removed from our racial uh, place.
Yeah.
There was a reason that we came from this particular part of the world, right? Because our genetics are designed for that part of the world.
Yeah.
Yes, and we each come in with specific gifts and specific tasks and specific, you know, like some of us are better at things and others are better at other things. It
You're not
depends on.
you're not allowed to talk about that these days. Everyone is absolutely equal. We have the same
It's
abilities and the
not
same
true.
right.
I mean, this is just nonsense.
It
It's
is.
nonsense. Not everybody is the same. I'm not saying that anybody is less
No.
than anybody else, but I am saying we are differentially gifted.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely essential for the whole, for the success of the whole organism,
Yes.
that we be differentially gifted.
Yes.
And that we bring different things to the table, and that we not be forced into cohabitating with people that we don't like.
Yeah.
And who don't like us, who want to kill us. Right? This is a big freaking problem.
Yeah.
And it's really in our face right now. I mean, especially in America and also in other Western countries that are seeing this forced, what we call migration. Right? This,
right.
Who's paying? Who's paying for the boats?
Yeah.
Who's funding this? How are these people getting here? Who's controlling the governments that's letting them in? And where's the money coming from? And I'm not going to come out and say it because I don't know how far advanced your audience is.
Is it George Soros?
Yeah, and we need to look at what tribe is he part of? Who has the money?
That's a good point.
Okay, who has the money?
Yeah.
And who has the agenda to kill the white race?
And when you look
white genocide.
Yeah. And when you look at oh, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, when you look at who gets let in and who doesn't, you know, I have friends who are trying to get people who they've been trying to get for years and years and years from certain countries, and they're also dark skinned, you know, and so it's not about skin color necessarily. It's not about, but it's about this agenda and who these people who are moving other people think will do the best job at disrupting both cultures, both societies, and both groups of people. Because they can't get these people in at all. And they've tried so hard and they have all this money in it and they have lawyers and they've passed tests and all these things. And then there's these other people who just get right in, no questions asked. You know, if you look into their background, it turns out they've got like horrible criminal histories and you're like, wait a second, like, why that person, not this person? Like, this system is messed up. But there's people pulling the strings, like you've said, who have very specific goals in mind.
Their goals are to make sure that rape is very high, the rape of white women, so that, you know, non-white children will be produced. Their goal is to absolutely destroy Christianity. And, you know, I have my own issues with Christianity as well, but I do not seek the destruction of a people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. And for some reason, when this is brought up, people get really triggered and they get really upset because there's a history of, you know, people who have, you know, used the Christian church and the Christian religion as a sort of shroud to hide behind while they're pulling off major crimes against humanity. You know, throughout history, we've seen that. Yeah. And at the same time, there's a separate, most of the people who follow any religion are not like that and are not going to be participating in that. And that doesn't make, you know, the whole tradition and the whole set of books and everything about it, you know, evil or defunct. But when you bring it up and you in any way describe it as good or positive, or, you know, describe it as something that shouldn't be destroyed or shouldn't be targeted for destruction, people kind of tend to freak out and lose their minds. And it's interesting that we've been, I think, programmed in this way. There is no other religion I've come across where, you know, it's okay to be so openly hateful and aggressive towards it, but it's totally okay with Christianity. So I agree with you. There's this very seemingly targeted attack on Christianity, unlike maybe however history went. If history is how it's described, you know, unlike that, this seems like a newer sort of thing that's very intentional. And maybe it is a really old thing. And a lot of these evil atrocities from history were, you know, done in the name of Christianity to also help destroy Christianity. Like, that could also be true, right? But
Yeah,
For
the
some reason,
Christian.
it's difficult to talk about because people freak out.
Well, I won't talk about it then, but I will say that
You can talk about anything you want.
the Christian church has been infiltrated by those that wish to destroy Christianity. Obviously, the highest levels of the Vatican, they're
Yes.
Jesuits.
Yes.
And the Jesuits are actually, the original Jesuits are Jewish. They are what's called Marrano Jews that were kicked out of Spain because, well, the Jews were destroying Spain. So the Marrano Jews were forced to convert to Christianity if they wanted to stay. And they created the Jesuit organization through which they could pass Jewish people through to safe haven. So that's the origins of the Jesuits. And the Jesuits are controlling the Vatican. And the Vatican is especially controlling the Catholic Church and is well known to be child raping and very involved in satanic rituals.
Yeah.
So Christianity itself, the way it's being expressed, has a very satanic side, which I won't go into very deeply. But if you just basically look at the worship of a sacrificed man and the eating and drinking of the blood and body parts of that sacrificed man through communion in the Catholic Church, then there are very strong satanic elements to this religion. That, and I do not mean to insult anybody because I'm also raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to kick myself or my family in the face, okay? I'm no longer Catholic and I no longer am Christian, but so it's easier for me to see.
Right. You had to come to that conclusion at some point too, and so maybe do many other people.
I've had to build a relationship with the Creator that's very personal, and to try to receive information that's based on truth instead of dogma. And the truth is hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
It is.
From where we've come from and the lies that we've been fed all of our lives. It's very hard for that. It's like we're mind controlled in a massive way from the minute that we're conceived. And when that mind control begins to break down, it's very uncomfortable. And so the things that I say today could make people very uncomfortable. You can begin actually to get very shaky inside or very agitated listening or angry or a number of things, depressed or grief. So I want to apologize ahead of time for anything that I bring up that makes people sad or mad or uncomfortable or really agitated in any way, because that's not my goal. But part of why I'm here, this is what I'm, is to help the mind control break.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I say is going to affect the belief systems that we've been force fed. And it's all in an effort to bring people back to the divine path, to bring people back to the good, to bring people back to a path where we can experience enduring love again and have happy families with happy, healthy children in a place on the earth that we can call ours, where we can feel safe, that cannot be taken from us by parasitical entities, that we're not paying parasitical entities to live on the earth, that we have the restoration of the divine plan, having decided in mass to get rid of these parasitical entities for good, not through violence, but through our spiritual intention to dematerialize them from this realm.
Amen. I love that because I always am preaching against violence, and I think a lot of people don't understand why. And I just try to explain, like, if you, as soon as you pull out your weapon and you start fighting, A, you're going to kill innocent people. No matter what war you're starting, you're going to kill innocent people. So I guess you're deciding to be okay with killing innocent people. But B, you're playing their game now, and they know exactly how to play that game. That's their game. They started it, you know, like they made all the rules. So you're entering into the game really, really late, playing their game that they're already super advanced at. You're going to lose. You know, it's not a winning strategy.
And I wonder how much harm is done to the soul.
Yeah, to yourself.
When we do end up killing, to our soul, you know. That's not to say that I am antagonistic to people standing up to this. And absolutely, we need to defend ourselves. Our lives are in great danger right now. We are being threatened in a very serious way. Okay. And especially with the Black Lives Matter stuff and all the violence that's being provoked. And with this vaccine that's coming in, and with the wireless grid, if people had any idea how very serious the situation is with this radiation, and what we and our children are being exposed to, we are in very serious danger.
It's like this multi-pronged attack. You know, that's part of this whole end game thing. Is there's this multi-pronged attack and it's closing in all at once. And some people see one prong or two prongs, but like there's very few people who see all of them and then also understand the sort of way through that.
The only way through that I can see is through consciousness, seriously, and getting them off the earth.
Yeah. With
our intention. And I reckon that we need a significant amount of people to make that choice.
Yeah.
And at some point, I do believe the wireless grid is a key to their control system. The cell phones are a key to the tracking and to them targeting people and recording conversations and all of that. And so we would also have to decide en masse to turn away from this stuff, and also maybe intentionally deal the wireless grid a fatal blow with our minds. To say,
or super soakers.
Done with that too. Because it's their Achilles heel. See, it's a key to their power system, but it's also an Achilles heel for them. Because without it, they're not going to get what they want. Without that wireless grid, they're not going to get what they want.
And it's just right there in the open. It's not like it's hidden away somewhere and you can't get through to it, you know?
No, I mean, there are cell towers blighting the landscape everywhere now. I'm on Long Island, and we have antennas transmitted satellites, you know, every 1/8 of a mile, hundreds of thousands of things all over buildings, everywhere you go. And I have a meter, you know.
Yeah.
That.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
I'd love to do a quick demonstration for you, okay, so that you can see what's going on. Right now, I'm in a Faraday canopy.
Oh, wow.
So there's not much happening in the canopy. But I'm going to turn, I'm also on a wired computer. But I'm going to go ahead and turn the Wi-Fi on. Not for very long.
Yeah.
But just so you can see. So watch.
Wow. It's like every time it pulses out, it goes up to red. Gross.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that shit off.
Yeah, that's gross.
I don't want to be exposed to that.
Yeah. Yuck.
So I'll let people know that where the screen is, that's where biological damage begins to happen. When you are chronically exposed to your cell phones, to your Wi-Fi, to your smart TVs, to your smart meters, to your smart washer and dryer, to your cordless telephones. Your bodies are taking a hit, my friends. And it's only a matter of time before you go down.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm in a Faraday canopy is because I did go down.
You did?
I almost died.
What happened?
I won't go into I don't want to go into it too deeply, but just suffice to say that I developed multiple symptoms, including extreme ringing in the ears because I can hear the frequencies. Many people can hear these frequencies that are coming off the grid. Insomnia, extremely irregular heartbeat that can create heart ruptures and heart attacks, and massive problems with my heart, with my thyroid, I was losing my sight. I lost my sense of taste and smell, which happens very quickly when you're exposed to a smart meter, especially. Everything hit at once.
Wow.
Within a matter of 2 weeks, it was like full system collapse. Wow. Everything was going down, and I could not get from my bed to the bathroom without collapsing. That's how weak I was.
Wow.
And of course my blood, I would take my temperature, and my temperature was below normal every day, which means my body had given up the fight.
Wow.
It had given up the idea that it could
win,
could fight against this assault.
Wow.
And there are many thousands, perhaps millions of us around the globe that have gotten sick from the wireless grid already without 5G.
Yeah.
And 5G, of course, is going to bring it to the next level. I do think the coronavirus is a cover-up for radiation sickness. And I've written an article about this because every single symptom that they're saying is associated with a virus is a symptom of radiation sickness. So if you go to my website, Radiation Dangers with an S, the first article on the site is the article I wrote about, is the coronavirus actually radiation sickness? And people should look at the article. You'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard this theory for a while, and so I wonder if it came from you originally, but I have seen people explain that like you said, the effects of this 5G radiation seem to be exactly what they're saying happens to people with coronavirus. And it's interesting because, it could be both too, just to add to the confusion, right? There could be an actual just cold virus that, some people, no matter what the virus is, will get sick and die no matter, every year. We have flus, we have colds, people die. So there could be this going on at the same time as they're testing in various locations around the world, in sort of hyper-local locations or larger regions, this sort of effect of 5G or whatever radiation, and seeing kind of like how it works. And then they've been calling out September since January. For some reason, September has been like the date where they're expecting things to get way worse. And so I'm like, well, they wouldn't tell us this over and over again unless September was going to be the date that they unleash whatever the next phase is. As far as I'm concerned, that's what's coming, just because they've said it so often. So do you think that's the day where they kind of like turn it all on and just watch everybody drop?
I do think that's a very good possibility. So I will say, there's so many things I can say. 5G is not the only problem.
Okay.
4G is a massive problem. What we're exposed to right now without 5G is a massive problem, and it will take you down. 5 to 7 years, there's going to be a lot of people dead, okay, just without 5G, okay? I do think that you're right. In September, they're planning on turning on some of this millimeter wave energies, which is going to take a lot of people immediately down. The 60 gigahertz frequency in particular is a frequency that messes with the oxygen molecules. So people are going to suffocate.
Ugh.
And already people are suffocating from the masks
Yeah.
because the masks are forcing people to breathe in carbon dioxide instead of oxygen. And so your oxygen levels are dropping massively when you wear a mask,
Yeah.
and which can cause brain damage and, of course, cellular damage of all kinds, especially in children.
Yes. It drives me insane to see kids wearing these masks.
Uh, We need to fight this. We should not be wearing a mask. That's very, very clear. But this is an initiation. This is a ritual, and millions of people are participating in the ritual and are willingly participating in the ritual, especially if they have cell phones. So there's a lot going on here,
Yeah. It's multi
it's
leveled.
very, very, very deep. But I do think, yes, in September, they're going to turn some things on, and many people are going to go down very quickly. And many people will not understand why. They'll think that they have a virus. Now, this situation also caused me to dive deep into the virus issue. And what I've discovered is they don't exist. This is a medical fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, this whole idea of viruses has been created to promote vaccines. We have things that develop in our bodies called exosomes.
Yes.
When our cells become toxic, and these things that they call viruses, our cells generate because these things release some kind of solvent that helps break the toxins down and helps the body release the toxins. So these particles that they're calling viruses and saying that are so threatening are actually a natural part of the immune system designed to support us.
Yes. They're our friends.
In trying to deal with the assault. But as with everything with the medical establishment, which is satanic
Yeah.
from start to finish, they turn everything on its head. So what's good is bad, and what's bad is good. So here we have a medical establishment telling you these little particles in your body are harmful when they're trying to help you. Here we have the medical establishment saying you have cancer, let's do radiation. Let's expose you to more radiation.
And that's what gives you cancer.
And chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Which will kill you. Right? Everything is universal. Let's give you some chemical pills that we've done black magic on. Pharmacy comes from the word pharmakia, which means sorcery.
I've heard this
before. People are black magicians.
Yes. And the little symbols that they put on the pills and the shapes and the colors and the names, like it's all intentional.
This is black magic designed to slowly harm people and kill people, all the while they're sucking the people's finances from them because they are parasites, literally. Yeah. This is a parasitical demonic force that exists off of our energy. And we have been feeding it unwittingly. But it's time to awaken from the slumber. These medicines never ever heal anybody.
No.
There is no healing with the medical establishment. There is a suppression of symptoms. That is it.
Absolutely.
And the more you suppress the symptoms, the worse your body's going to get.
Yes. And there's never a mention of nutrition. It doesn't even come into the picture ever. So I have Hashimoto's, and I'm learning more and more all the time how specifically I need to eat and how my nutrition has to be. But no doctor I've ever seen has ever mentioned anything about this. If it's all come from people who are good enough to share with me their own experiences of their own Hashimoto journey and getting healthy. And so it's really frustrating, you know? And I mean, I've known for a long time that doctors were not there to help. I think they are. Many of them think that they're genuinely, you know, helping and doing the
Right.
best they can do.
Right.
I don't deny that, but I mean, how often does anyone get helped by going to the doctor? Genuinely, you can ask yourself this question, and the answer is probably maybe one time in your life or zero. You know, very rare.
Really, in terms of true healing, any healing that occurs within the medical establishment is based on the healing that comes from within us. It's not based on anything that they do for us, but our belief in them.
Yeah.
That they can do something beneficial. It's coming from us.
Yeah.
Truly, it is.
Good point.
And with respect to Hashimoto's, of course, nobody within the medical establishment is ever going to tell you you need to get rid of your wireless devices.
Yeah, probably. When you were describing that, I was like, this sounds like Hashimoto's.
This is exactly Hashimoto's, hyperthyroidism, Graves' disease. All of this autoimmune stuff is being caused by radiation exposure. And especially with your phones, because you got your phone right here.
Yeah.
You know, next to your brain where you get brain cancer or cancer in the ear. You get little acoustic neuromas in the ear, or you develop thyroid problems. You know, I have a neighbor, 18 years old, with thyroid cancer.
Wow.
Who's had our thyroid removed. What do they tell you? Have your thyroid removed, or we'll give you radiation, radioactive iodine.
God.
We won't tell you to take iodine. No, we won't tell you to take regular iodine because that would support your thyroid. We'll give you radioactive iodine.
It's like literally every single aspect is backwards, like you said.
Every single thing that they do is harmful.
Yeah.
And this is how you and I got acquainted, was through my analysis and my knowing of what's going on during pregnancy and childbirth and what they are doing to us and our babies.
It really, your work on this was the first time I really stopped and was like, oh my God. Like I knew, like I said, that like the medical industry, you know, big pharma, this is all sort of a trap and wrong, but I just never dialed it in that much to think about like how damaging it is to give birth in a hospital. It's insanity. It's crazy. I saw this woman the other day. There's this video of this woman who is giving birth, and she is literally getting out of her car and stops and like reaches down and catches her own baby. And I'm like, wow, she did it. Like, how cool. And then she continues to walk towards the hospital. And I'm like, no, now you just turn around and leave. You're doing it wrong. But people don't know, you know. And when I first heard you on the Higher Side Chats, which was an awesome interview, it was a while ago. It was a few years ago. But you, I think, had talked about the umbilical cord and not cutting it, not clamping it or something. And you can get into that in a second. But I mentioned it to my sister and my mother, who are nurses. And I just said, you know, isn't that interesting to think about like what the baby might get extra if you didn't do this right away, if you just waited like a little bit? And they literally like lost it. They became so emotional and angry. My sister like screamed at me. Like it was crazy. The response was crazy. I was like, whoa, because I wasn't even trying to be provocative. I was just like, hey, here's a weird new idea. What do you guys think? But these things, like you said, when you start to lose the mind washing, you know, it can be really emotional in really stunning ways that you didn't necessarily expect, right? So
extremely stunning how violent people can get because they've been participating in the abuse. These are satanic rituals.
Right.
When you cut the baby's umbilical cord immediately after it's born,
oh God,
not only are you severely harming that baby, but you are participating in the collection of that cord blood, which is being sold to the highest bidder. They literally sell cord blood.
What the hell?
Okay, and I don't know how deep we want to go, but in satanic rituals, they drink blood.
They drink baby blood.
They drink baby blood.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing that's happening is like, I mean, Peter Thiel, I think he's the guy who runs PayPal, right?
I don't know. It sounds familiar.
He's getting injections of young blood
Yeah, that it's
in
like
order to keep
vampirism.
themselves youthful. This is, I mean, they're mainstreaming Satanism right in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
They're telling you, yeah, we're taking the freaking kids' blood and we're injecting it into ourselves because we believe that we'll stay more youthful. If we steal your baby's blood, which contains vital nutrients for your baby's well being, which contains oxygen that your baby needs in order for its lungs to develop properly, in order for its brain to develop properly, in order for its immune system to develop properly, we're just going to cut it
Yeah.
and siphon it off into a little vessel where we can harvest it because they're vampires. And this is literal vampires.
And the craziest part to me is that they've convinced us that that is good and that we should do it, and that then we do it because we do, right? We're like, oh yeah, you go to the hospital and you let them cut your baby up and then you go home and that's the best way to do it. It's the safest way. And you're like, this is crazy,
Not,
actually.
it's not at all safe. When a baby comes out of the womb, let me explain so that people can really grasp
Yeah.
the significance of this. The baby will come out first if everything is going normally. And the baby is now attached to the umbilical cord, and the placenta is still inside the mother, attached to her body.
Yeah.
Okay. So the baby is receiving oxygen and blood from the mother and from the blood that's being pumped through the placenta, through the umbilical cord into that baby.
Yeah.
This is a process that needs to happen so that the baby can slowly, peacefully, without trauma, enter into this world in which it has to breathe. You see, it did not have to breathe air in the womb. It was getting all of its oxygen through the blood. You understand?
Yeah.
So to make the transition peaceful and to ensure that the baby is receiving all that it needs through that blood, oxygen, nutrients, and a sense of safety and calm, trust, and ease in coming into this world and taking its first breath, you leave that alone. You let the mother give birth to that placenta while it's still attached to the baby. And when the placenta comes out, you will notice the umbilical cord is still pulsing blood. You'll see it. It still will have knots. You'll see that it's a kind of blue purple color filled with blood.
Yeah.
And if you wait a little while, it will become less blue, less purple. Eventually it'll turn white because the baby has received all the blood, and it'll be flat. That's when you know the process has been complete.
Wow.
When the umbilical cord is white and flat, all that. I could show you images of this. I mean, I wonder if I could share my screen because I'd have to find it, and I don't want to distract from the conversation. If anybody wants to see these images, it's so powerful. Please email me at JeaniceBarcelo@yahoo.com, or I probably have them somewhere on my website at birthofanewearth.com also. But in any event, there's a natural process that anybody with any level of loving integrity would allow this to happen for both the mother and the baby.
Yeah, I think about that. Like, exactly what you just said. I feel like if you were in this situation and everything was normal, that would be your automatic response, right? You let it all sort of happen in birth, and then it's like you'd notice that things had changed. Like you said, it would become white and flat, and you'd notice, like, okay, well, that part's done now. And these things would be sort of intuitive, I think. And I think we can see that in the animal world. It's
Yep.
intuitive and it just happens. And so, but then I think how, you know, you how freaked out I guess people get when they're thinking about birth and when they're talking about birth. And if somebody went into birth right in front of you, or sorry, went into labor right in front of you, and you had no experience with that, you would just like, right, probably like freak out, because we're also taught in this world that we're incapable and that we're not, good enough, and that we don't know things and that we can't trust ourselves. And so instead of trying to be kind of present in the moment and just like do what you can, I feel like a lot of people would just be like, oh my god, I don't know, like, and just scream. All this like negative energy would be going into it, and like the wrong
That
kind
would
of
be, that
energy.
would be, yeah, and that would be especially prevalent if you had a medical professional at your birth, because
True.
the fear is actually brought in with them,
Ugh.
you know, very often. So, but anybody that is not in that field of fear would be in awe
Yeah.
of watching this natural process and how magnificent the energy of love is when a baby comes in gently without trauma.
Mm.
It's a huge energy of love, and it's palpable. So anybody that witnesses such a birth would be in awe. And there are people right now that are doing what's called lotus birth. So not only do they not cut the cord, they leave the cord attached to the baby until the cord falls off on
Wow.
its own,
Wow.
which can take anywhere from 3 to 10 days. Now, this is a big deal because you've got a baby and a cord and a placenta.
Yeah.
So you have to know the herbs to wrap the placenta in so that it doesn't rot and smell, and you have to carry both your baby and the placenta. If you get out of bed, it really keeps the mother and the baby um, in bed together for a couple of days, basically,
Yeah. By
unless
necessity.
they have somebody with them to help them. But it is a beautiful thing that some people are trying to do to make it the most gentle. And then you take the placenta and the umbilical cord and you honor it. In indigenous cultures, the men had very specific things they had to do because with the umbilical cord and the placenta, because they understood if the wrong people got their hands on it, their babies could be negatively influenced by evil forces.
Yeah.
So they have very specific protocols that they follow to honor and bury the placenta and the umbilical cord, creating a special place on the earth for the child to return to if it needs to reconnect with that original source. And there's many, many beautiful things that we can do for our children, for the incoming children, to give them the support that they need. And we're doing the opposite. And there are those, like you said, that they intuitively know something really bad happened at the birth of their children, and there's something desperately wrong in their relationship with their children, and they're all screwed up because they've had a lot of birth trauma, and so have their children, but they can't name it. You see, they don't have a language to understand what's happened to them until they listen to some of my interviews, and then it's like, oh, wow, now I see what they've done, right? And so if they don't have that understanding, they're going to get angry. They're going to get defensive. And especially if they're working for the hospital and performing these rituals, participating in this evil, watching the screaming babies as you cut the cord and the babies are pulling away going, what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
The babies know that this is purposeful. Even if the person cutting the cord doesn't know, the babies can feel the evil in these Luciferian temples of the occult called hospital.
It makes so much sense to me because babies are the first beings that taught me that we all see auras. When I started learning about what I was seeing was called an aura, and I started learning about like what that might be and what it might mean, and then I'd noticed that every single child, especially babies, the younger the more obvious. So if you find like a 4 month, 6, or I guess whenever they start seeing, I don't know, whenever that is, but a very young child, they will instantly look right above people's heads first, because that's where the strongest part of the aura is, and then they'll look at their face. It's like the recognizing you by face is much less important than recognizing your energy, you know? And so it makes sense to me that sort of the closer to source they are, the more intuitive this all is, and the more they can just know.
Yeah.
Which then
And
is terrifying.
They're trying to break that link with source during prenatal care. The use of ultrasound, which is also non-ionizing radiation, it's even worse than what's coming out of your cell phone, is designed to introduce Luciferian energies into the child. And it is a primary reason for autism.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is going to be one of my next books. I just wrote a book about ultrasound called The Dark Side of Prenatal Ultrasound.
Wow.
But the next book has to be about ultrasound and autism.
Yeah, because I hear about vaccines and autism, but I've never heard ultrasound and autism.
Very often these things work synergistically. The vaccines are a major problem, and a lot of children are thrown over the edge into autism after vaccination.
It's like they build off of each other.
The groundwork for the brain damage and the genetic damage is being laid in the womb through ultrasound.
Ugh.
And through wireless exposure. So parental use of wireless devices during pregnancy is massively harmful to the incoming baby. And it's the kind of harm, radiation is the kind of thing that the damage may not show up for 5, 10, or 15 years.
Yeah.
So for example, we know that ultrasound causes infertility, but we will not notice that the child is infertile.
Yeah.
Until the child is 20,
for a while.
18, 20. And then we won't put 2 and 2 together. That the child has been exposed to massive radiation in the womb and throughout life, and that this has caused the infertility. And also the genetic damage, what's called de novo mutations. De novo genetic mutations are new, meaning they have never existed in the family line before. They're showing up for the first time in the children who have the genetic mutations. And these are caused by radiation. The medical establishment will never tell you this. They will tell you that they're spontaneous. We don't know what's causing them.
They're idiopathic.
I'm telling you what's causing them. The radiation exposure is causing the genetic mutations that are involved in autism, that are involved in very severe genetic illnesses like progeria, which is rapid aging of children. These children age 8 to 10 years for every 1 year that they're alive, and they usually die before the age of 14, exhibiting every single sign of radiation sickness and radiation exposure. And yet the medical establishment says, we don't know what could possibly be causing this. Disgusting. This is all in my book about ultrasound. And also the brain damage that's being caused through ultrasound, which is very severe. That's contributing to autism.
It's like before they're even born, we're destroying them, and like you said, introducing these Luciferian energies. And then I hear about people, and it comes from this place of like, you want to know, oh, is the baby okay? And it's like, well, it's okay or it's not. You're going to give birth eventually and you'll find out, or, like you'll have intuitions or whatever. I feel like I don't even really understand the point when we get down to it. But they're also like, we'll do injections sometimes, like into the fetus that's before it's born. And I'm like,
things like amniocentesis.
What are you doing? Why would you do that?
Why are you letting them? Why are we letting them do this to us? And this is another part of the mind control.
Yeah.
And the need to break it down, to break out of it, because this is tremendously dangerous.
Oh, it makes me sick.
really dangerous for the baby. And a lot of people have miscarriages as a result of letting them do this. Ultrasound is causing massive numbers of miscarriages and fetal deaths.
God.
Fetal deaths have actually surpassed infant deaths in the United States because of prenatal care, because of what we're doing, what we're
That's
allowing
crazy.
them to do to our babies while we're pregnant and to us.
And that's without counting abortions.
That's without counting abortion, which is another satanic ritual.
Yeah, what do you think about abortion?
Oh my God. Okay. There's so much depth to this whole conversation that I could spend 5 hours with you, Lindsay.
I believe
All
it.
right, but suffice to say that we are being programmed to have sex in the most vulgar and disgusting ways,
Yes.
and to create children from a vulgar and disgusting place of extreme unconsciousness and extreme disregard for love, very often with people that are abusive, who do not love us,
Yes.
and who we do not love. And so, but you see, we've been conditioned to believe that the orgasm is what we need,
Yeah.
that the orgasm is going to be fulfilling us,
Yeah.
that is going to bring us what we're seeking is the orgasm. And so have sex, have sex, have sex, have sex. Right now it's being taught to 4 and 5-year-old children in the schools.
Yes.
Have sex, have sex, have sex. And so people have sex. They want to continue to have sex. They don't want to have children. And so they murder their children.
Yeah.
Right? They go somewhere where they can have a satanic priest murder their child while it's in the womb, while it's in your womb. These babies are being, and of course we're told that it's just a clump of cells. It's not, it's not a baby.
Yeah.
It has no awareness.
Ugh.
It's not a spiritual being that's been conscious before you even conceived it.
Yeah.
Certainly not that. It's a clump of cells that we can go in and we can pull off its arms, pull off its head, pull off its leg, rip it limb from limb. Or if it's a late stage abortion, we can inject something into you that'll burn your baby to death while it's in your womb. So that you'll give birth to a burnt baby.
And then we'll use its parts for whatever we want.
Or we can do a late stage abortion. We can even do a partial birth abortion.
We can even do an afterbirth abortion now. Have you heard this in some places? They're like, we'll take the baby into the next room, and then depending on what the parents want, we'll do whatever. And I'm like, it's a living baby now, fully. I mean, the other arguments, I guess I could see how you would argue that, but it's a birthed living baby. I can't.
They're all living babies, no matter at what age they are. They're all living babies, and their suffering is immense. And the impact this has on the mother is also spiritually immense. And if she succeeds in giving birth without massive trauma next time to a living baby, there's going to be problems. There's going to be issues because this is massively satanic, you see? It is huge. In a late stage abortion, the baby might come out feet first, let's say. The baby's feet could be dangling 9 months pregnant. So what they do is they ram a scissor right up into the point where your skull meets the top of your neck. And they open and close the instrument. They shove it up into the brain and open and close to scramble the brain matter and suck it out with a vacuum until the baby
can do that.
People who are Satanists can do this because they're Satanists.
I just get so weirded out that the people who think they're not Satanists are there working that in these places and just telling themselves that this is good or I
have pictures of this stuff. Okay, it is not good. And I am also somebody that had an abortion in the 5th month of pregnancy. I went through what the burning of my baby to death, because I was told that I had a deformed baby that was not going to live. And because abortion is normalized, and I was completely unconscious of everything I'm telling you today at that time,
Yeah.
I chose abortion, not knowing
Right.
how they were going to kill my baby, how dangerous it is for my baby spiritually,
Yeah.
that it could have ended up in the hell realms because of what I did.
Oh.
And for me, the impact that this has had on my life is also enormous.
Yeah.
I have had massive trauma.
I was going to say the trauma you've probably had to heal. Yeah.
Massive birth trauma.
And they don't tell you this, you know. I also had an abortion and it wasn't the same circumstance, and I was also completely unconscious, obviously, because now I would never do that. But at the
Right.
time, it was exactly as you described. I was having pointless sex for whatever gratification reason with abusive people, and like while I was drunk or whatever, you know. And I was like, well, I want a career, so this thing is in my way, you know, and it's just a clump of cells. And now years later, I'm like, what did I do? What did I do?
It's
Just
like,
not
oh God.
connected, you know. And I also have had trauma to heal, which you wouldn't know you had until you at least get to the stage where you admit that what happened wasn't good. You know, you have to, and that's hard to get to in this society because we're so excited about abortion.
So I just want to offer up a prayer right now, to the loving Creator, to say how sorry that we are for how blind we've been, and how much we request your forgiveness and healing for what we've done, and for your help with awakening the rest of humanity to the severity of what we're participating in, so that we can wipe this clean, so that we can clean this earth, so that we can purify this evil and remove it permanently. And we love you so much, Creator, and we love your goodness, and we know that you want love to be restored on this earth, and we commit to doing our part to that restoration. And thank you for your support and your love. And thank you for embracing me and Lindsay, even after what we did, and embracing us all.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
I really needed to do that because we need to connect with God.
Yes.
And I'm not talking from a biblical perspective or a
Right.
religious perspective. We need to connect with love, which is why we're talking about this, as hard as this is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of my listeners are like, whoa, because we go into heavy topics, and I actually have an episode on the desecration of sex too, which I think anybody who's interested in that should go listen to. You know, but this has been it's really, really difficult anytime I think anyone thinks of something as innocent as a baby. You know, that I think can kind of break through to some deep emotions for people. And but yeah, I'm glad, like you said.
Can I break through a little bit more?
Oh yes, please do.
Just one more thing that I really think, how are we doing on time here?
We're about an hour and 10 minutes, so we're good.
So another ritual I want to talk about is circumcision.
Yeah.
Which is influencing sex, what we call sex, which is revolting. What we call lovemaking is a mockery of love.
Yeah.
In general. Okay. But now I want people to really think about this. We have a healthy, functioning male infant with a healthy, functioning penis that has a foreskin on a penis. The foreskin is, of course, designed to protect the glands of the penis. The glands is very, very vulnerable. So the foreskin is a covering to protect that glands. And that foreskin contains numerous nerve endings, making it the most sensitive part of the body. It is the part of the body that when that little baby becomes an adult and decides to merge, ideally it's not been corrupted, that it decides to merge with a beautiful woman that he loves to make a baby, that foreskin is designed so that when it meets with the vaginal wall, it will help the male brain trigger neurochemicals of love and bonding.
Wow.
That will bond that man to that woman. In addition to creating enormous sensations of physical pleasure, which are not the point.
Right.
The point of all of this is the fulfillment of human love. Okay, the fulfillment of human love occurs when we create life consciously with a partner that we deeply love, that we want to bring our love into eternity through the creation of life, and we have a child. That is the culmination of our love and our union, and it binds us forever. That's what it should be.
That's a true union.
A true union, which is discussed in the Ringing Cedars books. Please get the books. They will change your life for the good and forever. Okay, so what do they do with this foreskin that has multiple functions that are absolutely necessary to the fulfillment of human love? Is they perform their sorcery and their trickery. Their satanic science tells you God made a mistake. If you leave the foreskin on, your baby will get an infection. Your baby will be toxic, right? That foreskin creates a bad smell. It's all dirty. God. It's all dirty. It looks funky, right? It's all, the Creator made a mistake. We, the Satanists in this world, we can make it better.
We'll take care of it. No big deal.
We'll make it better by cutting off the most important part in terms of human love and bonding. And we'll one-up you even beyond that, beyond mind controlling you enough to hand your brand new infant son over to these psychopaths to cut off a piece of his healthy penis.
God.
And you say, okay. We're going to one-up you beyond that, and we're going to do it without anesthetic.
Yes. Why? God.
We're going to sexually torture your infant son so that every cell in his body will have a memory not only of your betrayal, of your refusal to protect him, but he will have a memory of satanic ritual abuse and extreme helplessness over which he could do nothing to save himself while they cut off something unbelievably significant for this little boy that will become a man with the deepest of wounds. And we want to know why the men in our world, especially in circumcised civilizations, we call them civilizations, but they're really satanic nightmares that we're living in.
Satanic death
Keep in mind that 80% of the world's men are intact. They are not cut. It's only in America and in Israel, really,
Huh.
where they're going for the infants. Even in Muslim cultures, they don't do this to infants. They wait. It's never okay.
Yeah.
But in Muslim cultures, they wait until the kids are older before they generally attack them. It's all psychosis.
Yeah.
Every aspect of genital mutilation is psychosis
Yes.
and is satanic.
Yeah.
But when you go after an infant before it's even had a chance to bond with its mother or its father or any living thing,
Yeah.
you are going for the jugular in destroying that man, the man that little boy will become.
Yeah. Well, I've
And
never
under,
heard that part of that you said about that it helps bond and create these love chemicals when they do decide to then go on and make love, have sex, create a child, whatever. Hopefully, right? I've never heard that before, but that is a big clue to why, in addition to that mind control, that trauma, you know, that
why they chose
level.
the foreskin.
Yeah. And I never knew that before.
Cliff High made a really good point about this, actually, because he said something like, they could have chosen to cut off a fingernail or, an earlobe, but
Yeah.
they chose the foreskin
Yeah.
because they knew what it would do to human love.
But why not the female like sheath around the clitoris or whatever that's called? Why men? Is it because this is another because we've seen over and over again, I think, this attack on men specifically and removing them from the family? Is it another level of that, or do you think that there's another reason why men were chosen?
I think men are chosen because men are their greatest threat.
Because they're the warriors otherwise, and they would
Yeah,
defend their babies and their lovers to the death if they were fully intact humans.
right. And they would be bonded and they would be defending and protecting their women instead of checking out. Many men today do not bond with their children. They do not stay with the mothers of their children, and they're having a very hard time being men.
Yeah.
You know, they're having a very hard time connecting with their emotions because they dissociated so early on to deal
Yeah.
with that trauma. Um, they're having a very hard time in many, many ways. There's another aspect to why they're circumcising that I'm kind of hesitant to say, but I think people need to understand this.
You can say anything on this show.
Circumcision is a Jewish ritual.
Yeah.
And of course, the Muslims are an offshoot
Right.
of Judaism, as is Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay. But circumcision was the way that Jewish men were identified as Jews
True.
in times when they were being kicked out. They've been kicked out of hundreds of countries for a reason, not because of irrational, Gentile hatred of Jews. There's reasons for this. And so part of the reason they want to have non-Jews circumcised is because they don't want to be identified in case it comes up again that they're going to be kicked out. So they've made a very big effort in the United States to make sure that non-Jews are circumcised also.
This is the cloak behind which they can hide.
That's right.
Interesting. Yeah. I've never heard that idea
Very,
either.
There's a lot of dark energy behind this ritual. And parents need to wake up to it because you should not be handing your babies over for this ritual because you're damaging them for the rest of their life. This is something you cannot get back. You can't get back your foreskin, number one. You'll never get back the breaking of the bond between a baby and its mother. And the baby will not trust its mother. See, no matter what, if the mother does not protect the baby from this, the mother's going to be blamed by that baby. It's a very subconscious and natural process for the baby to expect that mother and its father, of course, to protect him. And then they don't. And sometimes the father will, and mother will be right there watching. Ugh. In the Jewish ritual, the mother and father are right there.
I don't. You have
It's
to be
psych.
so broken in order to participate in this.
Yes, this is mind control, very, very deep, very, very deep, and very, very damaging. And our children are damaged. Our children are so damaged right now. I mean, it's unbelievable how far removed our children are from health, from spiritual well being. It's extreme. It's at the end. Okay, we are in the end game right now.
Yeah.
Either we get this, either we wake up and snap out of it and take this earth back from these very demonic forces, or we're toast. Okay, our kids are gone. If our kids make it to 30, based on the level of radiation that they've been exposed to alone, it's going to be a miracle.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the
So
things
we,
that blows my mind is that, the things we've listed, right, is just Satanism, infertility that's being caused by many of these things, complete brainwashing, right? All of this trauma, the dismemberment of our babies, in
yes,
addition to more, that causes all these things, the radiation that we talked about, all of this stuff has been happening, more and more and more, but it's been happening for so long. And I sometimes stop and I'm just in awe that we are even here still and that
that's
we're
true.
right and that we even have people who understand the truth or talk about the truth, and because wow, that's a lot of onslaught. There must be something like pretty spiritually significantly strong within us to withstand all of that and to carry on through it. So
That's it. You exactly. So well said.
thank you.
When
I,
you look at everything, the whole picture of what they're doing right now with the radiation, with the GMO foods, with the
yeah,
fluoride, with
food,
the, I mean, nuclear radiation, wireless radiation, ultrasound, everything they're doing to babies as they come into this world, poisoning
education.
the food, poisoning the water, poisoning the soil with the chemtrails. They are coming at us with everything they got,
Everything.
everything. And we're still going somehow. Of course, it's very serious right now.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm very, very worried
me
because
too.
I see, we've got 5 foot butterfly bushes, established butterfly bushes. There's no butterflies. There would be at least dozens of them flying around 5 years ago.
Yeah,
But the radiation has killed the
everything.
butterflies, the bees. There's very, very few bees, and the bees are part of our food supply system. Okay, there's very, very few insects left.
Yeah.
We used to have crickets down the basement by the hundreds in the garage. Zero,
Wow.
zero, not a single live cricket
That's
that I've seen.
terrifying.
Zero. I've seen 3 butterflies the whole summer
Yeah, I've
and
seen about
spring.
5.
Okay, it's very, very serious. This is not just serious for humanity, but for all living systems on the earth. This radiation is killing things, and it's killing us. And most people are so deadened that they don't even feel it. They don't even feel like, I guess they're just so used to feeling like shit
Yeah.
that they don't realize it's because the cell phone that they have a massive headache.
Yeah.
Right? Because the cell phones are literally causing their blood vessels to constrict so that the blood can't get to the brain, and they could have a stroke any freaking minute because of this. All right, they can't breathe because their respiration is affected by the radiation. No, you got lung issues, you got muscle cramps, you've got hearing loss, you've got you lost your sense of taste and smell, you got thyroid cancer, thyroid problems, you've got tinnitus, you can't sleep, your heart's going out of control. Nobody puts this together with radiation. Look up the symptoms of radiation sickness. Read my article. You've got it. Okay, there's symptoms that everybody probably has some symptoms that they're not making the connection with what's causing the symptoms, and they're going to the establishment the medical establishment, who knows exactly. And I'm not saying all doctors know.
Right.
But I am saying the people at the top know exactly, because they're part of the cult that's causing this.
Yeah.
They know exactly what's driving all of this illness.
Yes.
They've known it. Diabetes, big time. Heart disease, autism, ADHD, all the illnesses our children have. This can all be tied back to radiation exposure and the frequencies. You expect your children to be normal when you've got all of this,
Yeah.
artificial frequencies coming at them
Yeah.
from your devices. It's not going to happen, folks.
No.
Your kids are going to be completely messed up.
You're going to be totally devoid of any sort of connection to self or any of the things we talked about, the earth, spirituality, all of it is complete disconnection. I think that's part of what you were, when you're describing, it's like people don't even notice. It's like they're so used to feeling like shit. And I think another side of that is that we're so trained to disassociate because we're so traumatized over and over again that we can just like disconnect from it and be like, no, that's fine, whatever. This is just life, It's like how an alcoholic can drink every day and like not notice their body deteriorating. It's this disassociation and this, focus on something else that seems good, like whatever it is, partying or sleeping with strangers or whatever.
That's a fantastic point that you're making. And for people that don't know what dissociation is, let me just briefly describe it so you understand it if you see it.
Yes.
Let's say a baby's being circumcised, okay? And normally a baby will scream and scream, and sounds you'll never hear anywhere else. This baby's being tortured. It's very clear from the sounds. And then sometimes the baby will dissociate, meaning
they'll stop.
The crying will cease. The eyes glaze over. The heart rate slows. You'll see the blood drain out of the baby's face. All systems have slowed down now to survive, and the soul has left the body.
Yeah.
Literally. Because it's too much. The soul feels everything. The soul experiences everything, even when the body has completely disconnected from the soul still feels the pain.
Yeah.
All right. But this is what they're looking for. These people that are involved in trauma-based mind control, satanic ritual abuse, are looking for the kids that can dissociate. The ones that will leave the body, because these are the ones that can be easily programmed and will work in service to the dark side.
Because I think when you leave your body, you can leave it open for something else to step in. And your consciousness might still be there attached somehow, and maybe you can get back someday or whatever, but like something else can be in there.
Dissociation is the point at which an alter personality can be created, you see? And the alter personality will be in service to the dark side. This is the point of dissociation, to bring in these other energies that will be working for the cult.
Yeah.
Okay. So you might see this in an adult male. All right. Let's say you have a beautiful, kind husband who you go to the hospital with to give birth to your baby, and you are being abused during the birth process, and your baby is being abused, but your husband is in a catatonic state, your circumcised husband.
Yeah.
Is in a catatonic state and can't even speak to try to stand up for you or protect you. Your husband has dissociated because, and your husband may do this often when there's confrontation, because early on, especially for circumcised men, the baby's body learned to survive. I need to dissociate when I'm in danger. That's how I survive. And it becomes a physiological habit to dissociate when there's confrontation or danger present. And so the men may be dissociating when we need them the most, which will cause a conflict in the marriage that most people have no language to understand.
Yeah.
I'm pissed as hell that my husband didn't protect me, that he didn't protect our baby, and I don't trust him anymore. And you see, there's the beginning of the end for that marriage without anybody understanding what the hell has happened here.
Right.
And it's happened thanks to the medical establishment. Every single aspect of what has caused that breakdown is because of the medical establishment. Every single thing, every piece of that marital breakdown is because of the medical establishment.
It's sickly, horribly genius, you know, like how well they've planned this all out to fit together to cause all of these things, you know, that
it's diabolically brilliant.
yes. Absolutely. And I hate saying it, but I, you know, over like so many shows, I get to this point where I'm like, it's brilliance at play. It's just horrifying and demonic brilliance, unfortunately. But again, like we said before, I think that there's a more brilliant and you know, subtler sort of intelligence that's weaving another sort of net that I think you and I and most of our listeners here are a part of. And that, you know, has so much power. Like we were saying earlier, they ignore that. They don't take it into account. And that's their hubris. And that's, like you said, that's one of their Achilles heels. That's one of their downfalls. That's going to be that they didn't give that enough credit, I think, or they thought that they had sort of like trumped it or whatever. And I don't think they can.
I hear our own people not giving our own people enough credit, imagining that, you know, humanity doesn't have the power to wake up from this, and they won't wake up from this, and maybe many won't wake up from this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of willful ignorance.
Yeah.
I see it in my own family. You know, many may not wake up from this, but certainly we have the potential. You and I are doing it.
Yeah.
We have done it. We've broken free from the mind control. It does take a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to pretend it's easy. It's really hard.
It's really hard.
Because when we start to heal, when we start to realize how much trauma we've been exposed to, and when the mind control starts to break down, even that is traumatic.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard.
Right.
If I did not have energy medicine, like I use Jinshin Jitsu, I practice Jinshin Jitsu on myself every day, and I teach people. If I didn't have certain tools to help myself through the trauma, I'd be a dribbling idiot right now, because that's how hard this has been. You know, what we have endured is unfathomable.
Yeah. Really,
we cannot fathom the level of evil that these creatures are capable of.
Yes,
because it could never enter our minds to think of such horrors.
Yes, which is half of how they get away with it, right?
Right. Who could conceive of people being so evil and wanting to hurt us that much?
Yeah.
Like what, you know, understanding the nature of these beings is very important, because they are Lucifer's babies. Okay, they are really designed to destroy God's creations. That's what they're here for.
Yeah.
They hate God. And they hate us because we are God's creations.
Yeah.
Although we very much have been geared to turning to the dark side and to becoming children of Lucifer. We have to come back. We have to come back and to the divine path that's based on love, and return to our true creator. You know, this is what we have to be seeking right now, and to ask for spiritual help.
Yes.
From 100% pure love. Be careful who you ask.
Yeah. Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
This is a very we're dealing. This is a spiritual battle.
Absolutely.
That's going on. We've got to understand that so that we can get through to the other side. And the more of us that understand it, the more of us that will get through, the more of us that are ready to just own that it is spiritual. And to say, I want to return to God. I don't want to work for the dark side anymore. I'm done. I want to be part of the great turnaround.
Yeah. I love
And
it.
let's do that. Let's do that in mass.
Yes.
You know, if you decide you want to do it, let's say you decide you want to do it, and the first thing you want to do is get help getting rid of the wireless frequencies because they are Luciferian, then write to me and let me help you get off the Wi-Fi.
It's awesome.
Let me make suggestions about how you can hook up your cell phone to a wired connection while you're home so that you're not on a wireless device while you're at home, at least. Let me help you. Let others help you who've already gone the way, who've taken some steps back toward the good, and whose hearts are committed to going all the way back to the good, you know? And let's do this together. Let's do this as a whole. Let's do it from a place of love because we are good in our essence. And we want to experience this realm in the way the Creator designed it, which is based on love and based on the good. So let's make that commitment.
Absolutely.
And we'll get there.
I love that. It's such a beautiful sentiment, and it's so perfectly exactly what I'm all about. And I love that offer that you made to connect with anyone who may want to sort of work their way out of this. And I love especially that that's offered on this sort of spiritual level, because I think people don't realize that there are people like you and I, and I'm sure a lot of people who realize that this is a spiritual battle. And if you are feeling like you're having a spiritual struggle with it, then there are people you can also reach out to for that. You know, you're not alone in that. So don't feel like that. There's a lot of people who understand that that's what's actually going on here. So thank you for offering that.
Oh yeah, and also, for people that have had birth trauma, this is something also that I help people with, the healing of birth trauma.
Awesome.
And with preparation for pregnancy and childbirth, so to try to avoid more birth trauma.
Cool.
And even with people who have porn addictions, because if you look at my Birth of a New Earth website, you'll see my books and you'll see my double DVD set on pornography and my talk on pornography, because pornography is one of their weapons too.
Agreed.
And we don't want to be bringing demonic forces into our realm, so we need to break the addiction to porn. There's many things we need support with.
Yes.
And it's just important to recognize it and to seek the support. Once you ask for help, God will show you, literally,
yes,
who to go, who can help you. You'll have books fall off the shelves.
Yes.
Signs in the stores about healing, and go,
yes.
seek the help, seek the support.
Absolutely.
Find the way back to the good.
If you ask, you will get an answer. And as you ask, so shall you receive. It's absolutely true. I've found it true over and over and over again in my life. Whether, again, if you're asking God directly at this spiritual level, and you might get a direct spiritual response, you might, like you said, have a book jump off, you might have a person come into your life that's perfect timing. And I bet that this interview is perfect timing for many people, and that's why you and I got, rescheduled a couple times. So I'm guessing that that's true, and that there's a lot of people who are going to hear this exactly at the right moment to make a lot of things click for them. And I want, like you said, you offer a lot of different services. You have a lot of different books. You have DVDs. You have all of these things. So I want, as we're winding down, for you to remind people where they can go, because I know you have 2 different sites, and how they can sort of access all that you have to offer.
My main site is birthofanewearth.com. That's where you can find my books. I have a birth trauma book and a book about ultrasound. Okay, I also have a double DVD set on pornography and the manipulation of human sexuality. I offer birth trauma healing, which you can talk to me through my website about that, or email me at JeaniceBarcelo@yahoo.com. And I have a totally different website about the radiation issue, because it's too much to put on my birth website.
That's a good point.
Okay, there's so much on my birth website that's valuable for people who want to have children, and to do it gently and lovingly. All right. And the radiation issue is so enormous that I created a separate website called radiationdangers.com. And if you go to that site, not only are you going to find massive amounts of information about what's going on with ultrasound and the wireless grid and all of that. But there's some information there about the coronavirus hoax, which is a total cover-up for radiation sickness. And all you have to do is read the first article, although there's many other pieces there. There's studies coming in about the connection between the 5G rollout and the collapsing of people in that area. You could spend several months on the website.
Yes. Well, that's perfect, because there's a lot that I think a lot of people want to learn or need to learn. And so it's awesome that you've put that all together for people. And thank you for all of that you do. And I want to give you the opportunity. You've already brought everything to such a fine point and made so many profound statements. But I like to give people the opportunity to do like your final words of wisdom that you want to leave people with, as they're heading away from here tonight.
My final words of wisdom are just concerning the great turnaround, and to seriously decide which side you want to be on. To understand we're in a spiritual battle. Who do you want to serve? Do you want to serve God and the good? Or do you want to continue on a Luciferian path, which has its benefits financially and all that stuff, okay? But make the choice. And if you're choosing the good, and if you're choosing God and the divine plan, ask for help. Ask for help. And be open to receive that help. And go for it. Get the help that you need to get back on the path toward the good, on the path toward your healing, toward healing your trauma, toward helping your children heal, toward remembering who you are, what you are, and what you really came here to do. Now we have to do this. Now is the time. Make your choice and act and ask for help.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Well, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to the amazing, fearless warrior, Jeanice Barcelo. Jeanice, it's been epically awesome to have you tonight. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Epically awesome to be here. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good night, everybody.
They say the universe passes through a mother when she gives birth. The universe cannot be contained or impeded by mortal efforts. You are a channel for universal powers, no matter which side of the equation you represent, male or female. Men stand immovable to protect women in their process, and women move through the unknown to the point of singularity. You harness and bring forth the powers of creation, and you stand in an unbroken chain of humanity that has done so for uncounted centuries and millennia. There was never a reason to fear this or any other aspect of your power. When you know in your mind and your heart that you are capable and ready, and when you allow yourself to act in accordance with what your body understands innately, the universe's flow through you and into this plane will channel unhindered. And until your channel is wide open and flowing free, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
Nasty motherfuckers with a hook and a sickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack, fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers, flip reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast upon the dapper. Bloody bibs and muddy kicks, feasting on amygdala. Iron fist, tyrant shit, APO will rip you up. The rhyme rainmaker, Bane style backbreaker. Gang is depleted, uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard of me. No rusted tools used for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect a whole set, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad. Dust the towels, no rags. Straight melt dash. Dust the ash, turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose. My service touches the sun's surface, and rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons, cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet, lungs depleted and can't breathe, can't believe it. Trying to seek it while trying to peep it, it's a secret. Now you're nobody, label somebody, trying to claim John Gotti. It's yours truly, God body.